Hello, my drakes and dragons, and welcome to the project I've been working on for the past 2 or so months. This is a very long and difficult project that's based off of a Discord project called I think it's just called the Graphic Novel Redraw Project, and it's hosted by someone named Malik, at least is their Discord profile. And essentially what it is it's a Discord system that allows you to choose pieces in the original Wings of Fire graphic novels, and recreate them with all these different artists best to your ability. And the one that I was asked and chosen to claim was the Wings of Fire graphic novel. The second one is the one we're currently working on. The first one has been finished and it came out fantastic, and it can be seen on the Discord itself. I'll try to provide a link to the Discord in the description if I can. And ultimately the page I chose was the third page, the one with the prophecy. And I always really liked, what's the original graphic novel artist name? Mike Holmes, that's the name. So Mike Holmes, I wanted to, for those who don't really know about me or who I am, a big part of my art journey when I was starting out was recreating graphic novel pieces just best as I could, because even though my own style was nowhere, like not even developed yet as a beginner artist, and I expected it to be, I could still recreate drawings really well, which is honestly probably the reason I kept with the art journey in the first place, is because I was immediately good at least something. And I'd like to say, if you are starting out in art, that is completely normal. You do not have to be good in something in order to enjoy it. And for me, it was just a lucky break that I did have a little bit of talent in recreation. But to finally come back to a project like this where I was recreating something, and not only recreate it well, but in my own style that's unique from Mike, finally, it felt so fulfilling in so many ways. And something else that I'm really proud about this is the fact that it's by far the most complex piece I've done. And what I mean by that is the next most complex piece would be a piece of which I did only 2 full-body dragons, both of them side view, in the same piece. This one I think is around 6 full-body dragons, all in different positions and avenues. And you can see, as we go along with this, I hyper-analyzed this and redrew so many lines so many different times, and looking back at this, I am watching with horrified fascination as I look at it and go like, it's fine, leave it, and then watch my past self continue to try to tweak it. And I think that definitely rinses and repeats like the Talons earlier, and I'm gonna go back to that Talon, don't you worry. You can see me redrawing it over and over and over and over again, hoping it will be perfect. The thing is, I could have left it just like that and it would have been fine. Nothing really ever needs to be perfect. You just need to be able to look at it and be happy with it. And I know that's really hard to do, but at the same time, you need to be happy with it, but also be able to take a step back and go, this is enough. You are enough. And you can see, yep, go back to the Talon. But in general, this was just such a fun project. In general, with Mike Holmes' style, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I do like how kind of realistic it is, and how much it connects and fits with just Wings and Fire in general. I think any artist could have done Wings of Fire and it would have turned out great, but to, again, see my own style in this was just a really true joy when it came to this. And the reason why I'm voicing over this in the first place is, newsflash, this is a 14-minute speed paint. Get in. We're in a long haul here. But I felt like just adding some music wouldn't really do very well. Not the fact that it isn't entertaining, but for me personally at least, I always found speed paints that weren't my own to be a little tedious at times. And yes, it is satisfying, but I don't know, I wanted to add something more, and here I am talking with my monotonous voice. Although I have been told I have a bit of a narrator voice, so who knows, this might actually end out working pretty well. I'll try to talk a little bit about the little design choices I made within this while making it, and I'll also take a page from Cypress's book and do kind of like a little what if on a book that I've been writing for a long time called The Dragon Last Prophecy, which I'll also link, and it's been a piece of mine that's been in the works that I'm very proud of. It was initially actually a joke book of a classic trope of like, what if I drop this random person that's not at all related to my own name into the Wings of Fire universe? We don't have 100,000 books exactly like that. So yeah, I decided to go with that. And initially, again, it was just supposed to be practice for my actual book I plan to write about Icarus, my main OC. I still haven't wrote that, but instead, as I wrote the story, it actually started to develop into something new that I actually really enjoyed. And hence, I've revised the entire book like 3 times and hyper overanalyzed every single piece. Don't do what I did. Just go with it once and fully finish it out, because my update schedule ranges from 2 to 3 months, which, hey, I'm writing a lot better than I once did, but it's not exactly a healthy style when it comes to writing. But anyway, some little design choices I chose within this to make it a little bit more unique is, one, I decided to add... I just noticed in the bottom right of the Sandwing, I forgot to add her ear, and I don't think that's ever fixed. Anyway, moving on. I decided to add a little bit more detail into each of the dragons, try to make them unique and stand out from each other so they don't all look the same. I tried to keep the wings and the overall position the same while trying to add a little bit more to it. Like, for example, I tried to, initially I was just going to go with Glory in the bottom right one, but I decided to instead go with what the prophecy was quote-unquote supposed to be when the Nightwings created it, and that was with the Skywing. So I created the name Ether, and I tapped it onto that one, and it's crossed out because demolished. The Wings of Fire universe does in fact have fall damage, and I think I could have done better with Aether's talons, but that's neither here nor there. And overall, me struggling with talons is going to be a pattern you're going to recognize a lot when watching this time lapse. The thing with Sunny, and the reason why I decided to make her both the bottom one and bigger than the others, is that's the idea of like what Sunny was supposed to be, you know? She or he was supposed to be a full Sandwing, with the barbed tail and bigger, not the opposite of what she was, which was bigger and not a hybrid. Oh, that little spoilers, sorry. But yeah, and then again, you can go through me going the details. Initially, I decided to just scratch out the eyes like I did with Blaze, but I decided, it's pretty much only because I liked how I drew Clay's eyes, to reveal only Clay's eyes as like a way of saying like, Clay's story has already been told, therefore his eyes are removed because we kind of know who he is. And then came the debate on whether or not to unscratch Tsunami's eyes because this is her book, but I'm like, wait, well, her story hasn't exactly been told yet, so I'll leave hers unscratched. But if that then creates the thing where if this ever gets big enough to where we recreate the 5th book, Sunny's eyes would forever remain unscratched if other artists decided to go with the same style. And so it became a thing of like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it the way I want to do it, and that'll be that. The system I used, by the way, was Krita, and again, this was a really big challenge for me, and it was just a lot of fun to do. It strained, like, this is, I think, only my 4th or 5th digital piece I've ever made. I'm primarily a traditional artist, but to finally learn, like, something I've really struggled with was blending and figuring out how to blend colors on this, and just experimenting a bit to make it the way I wanted it to. And I think in the bottom, you'll see here, there is a moment where the style gets pretty unique, and I kind of wish I just left it that way. But in general, I'm just happy with this. It's cool. And yeah, of course, there's flaws with it, but I enjoy it. And that's ultimately what matters. And now we're going to do a very seamless transition to a little excerpt from the Dragonglass Prophecy. And this is going to be in the middle of one of my latest chapter that I've updated, because, I don't know. No offense, Evan, Ren said, her voice flat and toneless, once again cutting off his train of thought. But I'm surprised your world is even still around with only humans. His face tightened. He's right in a way, he admitted, his thoughts darkening with the sheer scope of human greed and cruelty. But to be fair, it's not that much different here, just on a bigger scale. He met Ren's gaze, his expression soft but determined. And if we don't try to make things better, even a little bit, then what's really the point of it all? They flew together in silence, the tension thick in the cold air like honey mixed with peanut butter. Sounds pretty good right now. He sniffed, wiping his freezing nose. It depends, I guess, he said, answering his own question. Ren raised an eyebrow. Depends on what? The number of humans or the amount of good in the world? Why are we having a philosophy? Anyway, bit of both? There are almost 7 billion humans where I'm from, so of course the bad that exists would be much bigger and more visible compared to here. Her eyebrows shot up in surprise, although not enough to stop her from rolling her eyes, of course. He sighed. Listen, I get that humans can suck, but at the end of the day, we're not so different from dragons. It's about perspective. I could say dragons are all bad because from my point of view, they randomly showed up and burned my village to the ground. But in reality, maybe it was a couple of drunk or grieving dragons who lost their own families to humans. Does that automatically make all dragons evil? And even if it does that mean Sky is evil? Or Glory? Or every other dragon? You can't focus on a bruise when the rest of the apple is perfectly fine. She snorted. Right, because an apple translates perfectly to the complex web of corruption that humans pose. Besides, dragons and humans are two different species. You can't compare a screeching monkey to the same degree as a dragon. Dang. And I doubt even 20 scavengers working together could even scratch a dragon without getting lucky. He stared at her blankly, waiting for her to catch the obvious flaw in her logic. It doesn't matter if it was lucky or not. I wouldn't exactly call the War of Sandwing Succession small. She gritted her teeth. You know what? Fine. Sometimes the apple is just a bruise, but sometimes the so-called apple is rotten to the core. Better off thrown away or better yet smashed before the rot inevitably spreads to the rest of the tree. He blinked, taken aback by her and concerned by the sheer vitriol in her voice. Is this her general hatred of humans because of her past? Or is there something more that I'm missing? Did something happen with her other friends? I mean, yeah, that makes sense, he admitted, but how can we judge that core properly if we're staring at it from the outside? She rolled her eyes again. Maybe humans are perfect in your world, but I've had a lot of experience with humans here, and most of them suck. And the few that don't, they can't or won't do anything to stop the ones that do. Why? Because it's easier, living in the painful familiar when they could be fighting for something better. And back to your so-called point, think about the suffering even a single human can cause. One human was all it took to not only cause the scorching, but the Sandwing Succession War. How many dragons died because of them? How many dragonettes? And what about freedom? She shook her head. We can't let something like that happen again. And that's all I'm gonna read from that, because, I don't know. That's all the little glimpse I'm gonna give. You can find the Dragonglass Prophecy, here comes the shameless, insert, on Wattpad or AO3. I was updating on fanfiction.net, but, yeesh. Anyway, back to the, time-lapse. I wanted to experiment a bit with something other than just dark shadows in the eerie void. Ugh. So I tried initially with like this star design that would each connect each of the dragons, with each star being different, but I decided it cluttered up the details too much, so I decided to go with a little bit more scratchy shadow design. And something I will say is I think Sunny's shadows that I gave could have been fixed a little more. I think that's the last time I actually touched them, while the others are a little bit more fleshed out. But overall, it's still my piece and I'm happy with it. Clay turned out, I think, one of the best. Again, could have been better, but if I nitpick all day and keep comparing myself to everyone else, I won't exactly get anywhere. And ultimately, comparing myself to artists who have been in the game years and years ahead of me will only shatter my self-esteem. And that's another thing with just social media in general, is you only see the best or most carefully curated parts that have most likely either fake, carefully built up and framed, or just they have way more experience, and that's not something you need to focus on. And in general, and again, this is much easier said than done, you need to take breaks every once in a while. I know it's hard, and we all have our perfectly tailored excuse on why we shouldn't take breaks on social media. For me, it's like, oh, I'm an artist. I can't possibly take a break on social media. That's my life. I need to keep in the trends. You don't. You really don't. You take a step back for even a day and reconnect. There won't be some grand thing that you'll miss. There'll just be some type of drama that you will feel burnout about anyway. And you'll just feel better of like, oh, nothing really changed. And just take breaks. It's nice.
Okay.
And anyway, back to the thing. I did actually go with the star design just a lot more controlled. And each of the stars is there and they represent aspects of them. Clay being orange, like loyalty or bravery. Blue being like brave and tsunami. Rawr. Purple being aurous and mysterious. And red being dead. Loser. But I also made his star kind of broken a bit, as if it's shattered. And then something else with the top portion, which I did in like a single day, because I dabbled with this here and there, and in general I think this took me around 17 hours. And then in a single day I was like, oh, I gotta update this or else I'll miss the deadline. So I just locked in and did the top portion. And in general, I'm also really happy with how it turned out. But I think I could have done the flames better. If you look to the right of Blaze's head, the flames there don't exactly match up. But again, I'm nitpicking. This is something that I'm still proud of. And I just like all the details within this. The way you can, like, zoom in on the dark embezzled faces of the dragons that are looking up and see the details inside it. And then with the words, you'll see me redo these a lot. I wanted to make it unique, and instead of doing the classic text, write it in my own style. And you think that my drawing skills would translate to handwriting? It doesn't. Trust me, it does not. But which is why it just took a lot of trial and error. It turned out pretty good. I was gonna be big and boisterous across the front, but instead I channeled my inner Markiplier and spammed the letter E for 20 minutes. Finally, I'm semi-satisfied with that. I'm gonna go back to it. And I really like that I actually went with the decision to make the handwriting unique, because it ties it together, in my opinion. It connects it all together in a beautiful masterpiece. And of course, here comes the final little expert I did of making the dragonets are coming. Of 3 queens who blister and blaze and burn, 2 shall die, and 1 shall learn. If she bows to a fate that is stronger and higher, she'll have the power of wings of fire. 5 eggs to hatch on brightest night, 5 dragons born to end the fight. Darkness shall rise to bring the light. The dragonettes are coming. Yay! It's all done! Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I might do more of this kind of dialogue time-lapse things, and in general, I just hope you all have a great day and enjoyed this. So, you know, like, liking and subscribing in the description below really helps the channel a lot. It does. It lets me just, like, views are good and all, but you commenting and liking and subscribing, no matter how small it is, just gives me a little, like, thrill in the day of, like, knowing, like, they genuinely enjoyed this. Because views, and before I became an artist myself, I never understood that, like, views and stuff and likes actually really did matter past just giving the creator support. It genuinely just makes my day better when you do it. So, yeah, that would be nice. And may you all have a wonderful day. Drakes, dragons, dragonesses, and other extravagant artists. Goodbye!